Yes, this is John G. Sutton, and this is Tales from the Jails. Thank you for watching this again, and if you've been watching this, subscribe. It's very good. Helps me a little bit, I believe. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to talk today about D-Wing, the block, D1, at Strangeways Jail. Now, listen, I have a theory about D1. I believe that it was there not necessarily as a form of just segregation, that people would be ordered by the government, segregated labour. So that meant you were sentenced by the governor to like 7 days down the block, usually for transgressions such as fighting or attacking other inmates or being aggressive with staff. You go before the likes of Norman Brown, my mate Norman, and he'd give you 7 days down the block. But they had strange rules down D-Wing, where they had these white tiles and the black tiles, and you weren't allowed to walk on the white tiles. Now, you can imagine that this is just stupidity, basically. I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't walk on the white tiles, yeah? Because it was the easiest way to get there, to walk on the black tiles, which were all around the outside, yeah? You couldn't go down the middle, you see. Strange. And if you did, then of course you couldn't get charged by the staff for disobedience of orders, because basically it was a ridiculous order. So what would happen was you'd just get battered. The normal way that would happen was you'd either accidentally or deliberately transgress by walking on the white tiles, and then one of the staff would knock your meal out your hand, your tray out your hand, grab you by the head and run you to your cell, throw you in where you'd stay, and maybe you get one of the food-free diets. That's where they don't open you up for meals. And of course, when you complain to the governor or the board of visitors or whatever you decided to complain to, which would always be a mistake, by the way, it would absolutely be a mistake, they would be able to produce a book, the incident book, to say that you were opened and refused your meal. It would be there and it'd be signed by the senior officer who would observe you refusing your meal. And of course, obviously, you hadn't refused your meal. What had happened was you'd managed to get on the wrong side of the staff. And that's what they wrote in the book, and that's what the book said. I mean, there would be people who would get a good hiding, you know? Do you know what a good hiding is, basically? It's when one of the big boys goes in and grabs you and gives you a slap, you know? But they didn't just give you a slap, they give you and if needs be, there were more than one member of staff. But usually the staff that were picked to work down the block were perfectly capable of dealing with incidents on their own. But to be safe, you always had a couple outside, you know, the team, yeah? I personally didn't do this because I wasn't a regular member of staff down the block, although I did work down there on occasions because they'd be short of staff. So somebody had to go down. So I often did that. And I did witness certain members of staff going up to inmates and saying things like, you've got one member of staff whose name I will not mention, but let me just say he wore big ammunition boots with metal studs on the bottom, and you could hear him crunching down the landing. And he'd go into the cells and he'd say, you've got 10 seconds to hit me. And after that 10 seconds, I am going to give you the best hiding you've ever had. Notice I mentioned this good hiding thing. It was a term that was used on the block. You're going to get a good hiding, you lad. And that's what happened. And I never saw anybody actually come on top with that. And of course, we have the big Paul Sykes fan club that I've seen, you know, what a tough guy Paul Sykes was. Not down the block at Strangeways he wasn't. I never saw anybody win down Strangeways block except the staff. And if it needed 3 or 4 of them, and believe me, these were big fellas, you know. We're talking 17, 18 stone, big hands, you know. I mean, I've got reasonably sized hands, you know, with a nice grip, yeah. They'd take you into the block, into the cells, and give you a beating. I told you, I went into and intervened one day. I don't know what they must be mad, in my opinion. To behave like that, you've got to be a little bit deranged. I went into D1 one day, and I was a hospital officer at the time, and they were taking turns at kicking this guy on the floor, and the boot polish from their boots of the staff had embedded itself into the man's skin. He was stark naked on the floor, screaming. His teeth were broken. Kicked him in the teeth. This is a cowardly thing. Really big men doing that. I don't know what this guy had done, but he didn't deserve that. And if they'd continued to kick him, they would have killed him. He ruptured his spleen or broken his liver or kidney or seriously given him an internal injury. So I ran up, picked him up and put him into what they call one of the silent cells. That's a cell within a cell down the block. And it was empty, so I slung him in there and locked the door. And the staff, who were just starting to get into the rhythm here of kicking this man into the next dimension, I thought they're gonna take it out on me now. You know, they haven't completely finished what they're doing, you know. I got out of there and went and got the senior medical officer. And when he came back into the block and at my behest examined this man who was, in my opinion, quite seriously injured, he said to me, Mr. Sutton, why are you wasting my time? He said, I've examined this man and there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. Why am I here? And no, I couldn't say anything. I knew what it meant. It was, this is Strangeways. And Strangeways, what happens in Strangeways stays in Strangeways. The next morning, the magic book. Yes, they had a magic book, I told you. Incident book. At approximately 10:30 p.m, this man was heard throwing himself against the door, throwing himself against the wall, screaming and shouting all night, and the incident went on, you know. So the next morning, he could be seen by the medical staff, and they could treat his injuries, but not until the alibi had been secured. How diabolical is that? I mean, the problem is, a lot of people who ended up down the block were really new to prison, didn't understand the rules, didn't understand that you don't start questioning staff. I mean, one of the things that the staff used to have was a National Front badge on their lapels. They wore it. It was like a curled Union Jack flag. And I saw inmates going up saying to the staff, hey, boss, what's this you've got on your uniform here? And they'd say, NF, not fucking interested. No, piss off. That's what you got. That was the attitude at Strangeways. And of course, we have talks about racialism, you know, about racial prejudice. I personally think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely crazy. I mean, I've been all over the world, and I wouldn't expect to be treated any different because I'm white, pink, black, green, polka dot, whatever colour I happen to be. I would expect to be treated as a human being. But that's not quite what happened at Strangeways, because there was a real faction in Strangeways that was with the National Front. And for some unknown reason, they believed in what they thought was racial purity. And if you'd actually had a close look at these people, they were absolutely horrible individuals. Seriously. You know, grotesque big beer bellies, slobs, getting pissed every night. And they thought this was the epitome of racial purity. God help them. Anyway, D1 at the block, let me tell you this, place to be avoided. It certainly was then, the staff run it like a club, you know. They just enjoyed themselves, and the inmates were always opened one at a time, so that if they kicked off, there were 3 or 4 staff there ready to get stuck in and hand them the beating that they so richly deserved. Yeah, which was something that they prided themselves on. Nobody got out of the block, you know, thinking that they'd won. A lot of them I've seen them, you know, saying, "Oh, I could handle that, no problem." They say that when they're out, but I never saw anybody say it when they were in. Anyway, Tales from the Jails. And don't forget to get my book, Psychic Screw. It's all in there, folks.